This is hands down the best AI video generator you can use right now. One of my favorite video models out there, Hailuo, just released their flagship O2 model. And this is incredibly impressive. And yes, this even beats Google's VO3 in terms of silent video generation. So in this video, we're going to go over some of the impressive things that Hailuo O2 can do, and we're also going to compare it with the other leading video generators out there, including Google's VO3 and Kling 2.1, so you can get a sense of how good this is. Plus, we'll go over its performance and specs and how you can use it. Let's jump right in. So it's really simple to use. All you gotta do is go to Hailuo's site, which I'll link to in the description below. And over here, you can see that I'm on a completely new account to show you that you actually get 500 points to start. And it's really easy to use. Over here, you can click on video to generate videos using their latest Hailuo O2 model. Note that this supports both image to video, where you can upload an image to use as the start frame, or text to video, where you can create a video with a text prompt. And then over here, note that for this latest Hailuo O2 model, this creates videos with a resolution of 768p, and you can choose between 6 seconds and 10 seconds. Or you can also choose to create 1080p videos, but notice that only 6-second videos are supported if you create in 1080p. So that's pretty much it. I'm going to start by showing you some text to video examples. And then I'm also going to show you some image to video examples afterwards as well. Now, Hailuo O2 is known to be especially good in understanding your prompt, even if you specify really complex scenes with different camera movements and a lot of things in the scene. Plus, it's also really good at physics understanding. So let's start with a really tricky prompt. I'm gonna write a man riding a unicycle and juggling red balls. And that's pretty much it. Let's click generate and see what we get. Alright, so here indeed we have a man riding a unicycle and juggling red balls. And it actually looks like he's riding the unicycle. Plus, he is juggling the red balls. Now, there are some minor flaws with the balls near the end of the scene. Some of the balls disappear, but overall, this is still really impressive, especially if you compare this to the other leading video models. So here's the same prompt using Google's VO3 and Kling 2.1. As you can see, for VO3, the dude isn't really riding the unicycle. The unicycle isn't really moving. So the physics are completely wrong. Plus, the juggling is also completely incorrect. The balls are kind of magically appearing from out of his hand. So, compared to Hailuo, VO3's generation is pretty bad. And then if you look at Kling 2.1, the unicycle is moving, but he's not really pedaling. And he's not juggling at all. I don't know what he's doing, but it's not juggling. So for round 1, the point would have to go to Hailuo O2. Alright, next let's try your favorite prompt, Will Smith eating spaghetti. Now this is text to video, so here I'm really testing if it can actually generate existing people or celebrities or characters just with a text prompt. For other video generators like VO3, the censorship is extremely strict, so there's no way in hell you can generate a video of Will Smith just with a text prompt. Anyways, let's click generate and see what we get. And oh my goodness, this is 100% Will Smith eating spaghetti. Look how realistic everything is. I mean, I can't point out any flaw in this video. It's absolutely flawless. By the way, he looks so depressed eating this spaghetti. He's probably sick of it by now. Now, if you compare the same generation with Google's VO3 and Kling 2.1, note that VO3 won't even generate a video using this prompt. And then for Kling 2.1, this is not Will Smith. Even if there was a white guy called Will Smith, he would not look like this. This guy looks more like a Bernard or something. So clearly, none of the other video generators can actually generate existing people or celebrities just with a text prompt. But Hailuo is able to do that, and even version 1 can do this really well. So again, the point goes to Hailuo for this round. Now, since Hailuo is known to do really well with physics understanding, let's test it on this. A skier launches off a snow ramp, twisting acrobatically in the air. Let's click generate and see what that gives us. Alright, here's our generation. And it looks perfect. I mean, the dude is indeed twisting acrobatically in the air, and there are no deformations. His head doesn't suddenly come out of his butt. His arms and legs remain intact. This is the first time I've seen an AI video with tricky movements like this, where the person actually remains intact. And he actually spins perfectly. This is really impressive. Now here's the same prompt with the other two video models. For VO3, it actually starts off pretty good, but near the end there, it seems like his head suddenly appears from behind. And, the front of the man suddenly becomes the back of the man. So this is the classic flaw that we've seen with AI videos in the past. Clearly not as good and consistent as Hailuo. And then if you look at Kling's generation, it's all over the place. Like, the dude is skiing backwards, and then I don't know what he's doing in midair, but it just does not look realistic. There are way too many flaws with this. So for this round, again, the point goes to Hailuo 02. It's absolutely dominating. Next, here's another tricky physics prompt. So let's try a gymnast performs a flip on a balance beam, and let's click generate. Alright, here's what we get. This is a gymnast on a balance beam, and she is kind of doing a flip. Now, the flip is not perfect, but at least, her arms and her legs do remain intact. Plus, the front of this woman remains at the front. Her front side doesn't suddenly switch to her back. So even though the flip is not perfect, this is still pretty good. Now, if you look at the same prompt with the other two video generators, VO3's generation shows all the classic errors that you might be familiar with. There's a lot of warping and deformations going on. Her legs suddenly disappear and appear out of nowhere. This is just really awful. And then for Kling 2.1, the quality is actually really good and super sharp. And, her arms and legs do remain intact throughout the entire generation. However, the flip looks very wrong. So even though the coherency is better than VO3 in terms of actually executing the flip, again, I would have to give the point to Hailuo 02. Although it's not perfect, Hailuo's generation is still the best render of a gymnast doing a flip on a balance beam. So again, the point goes to Hailuo. Now, instead of physics, it's also really good at understanding all the elements in your prompt. So let's test it with something tricky like this. A giant cat wearing aviator goggles races across a desert with a child clinging on its back. The cat runs so fast that it leaves a trail of fire. And here is what we get. Indeed, we have a giant cat wearing aviator goggles, and it is racing across a desert with a child clinging on its back. Plus, it is running so fast that it leaves a trail of fire behind it. So this is a perfect generation. It nailed all the elements in my prompt. Now, if we run the same prompt with the other video generators, interestingly, VO3 was not able to generate this. Maybe it's very strict in terms of generating kids. Anyways, at the bottom is Kling 2.1's generation, and although it is good, there is a cat with aviator goggles with a child clinging on its back, and it is running across the desert. It's not really leaving a trail of fire. Instead, the cat's tail is on fire. So this is like a Charmander, or should I say a Catmander. But anyways, even though Kling 2.1's generation was close, it did not follow the prompt completely. So again, the point goes to Hailuo. It is absolutely crushing it. Now, because it's so good at understanding and rendering your prompt, here's another really tricky and abnormal scene. So here we have a group of friends having brunch in a cozy cafe. Suddenly, a capybara falls on the table, surprising everyone. And here is what we get. Indeed, we have a group of friends in a cafe, and indeed, we have a capybara that falls on the table. And everyone looks super surprised. Notice that the physics are also really good. As the capybara lands, it also, crashes on the plates of food, and it sends the forks and other utensils flying everywhere. Now, here's the same prompt with the other two video models. For VO3, it did have a capybara fall on the table, plus it made the poor thing fall off the table as well, which is kind of sad. And notice that after the capybara falls off the table, the food is actually not affected. So this is physically incorrect. And then for Kling's generation, the capybara didn't really fall on the table, it was just there at the start. And I don't know why it made everyone run away, I mean, capybaras aren't that scary. But again, as you can see, Hailuo's generation is the only one that could actually generate this prompt correctly. So here's the scoreboard. What an insane lead. Alright, here's my classic prompt, which surprisingly a lot of video generators could not get correct. So we have a princess wearing a glittery white dress. She is running away from a massive dragon with glowing red eyes, 3D Disney Pixar style. And here is what we get. This is indeed 3D Pixar style, and this is a princess wearing a glittery white dress, and she is running away from a massive dragon with glowing red eyes. Again, everything looks perfect. The movements of everything and the expressions of the princess are also really good. Now, here's the same prompt with the other two video models. For VO3, the princess is running away from the dragon, so I'll give it some points for that. However, I guess just a minor issue is the dragon doesn't really have glowing red eyes, whereas for Hailuo's generation, the dragon's eyes are actually glowing red. Also notice that at the start of Vio's generation, the dragon actually isn't there. It just appeared from out of nowhere. So that isn't really correct. And then for Kling, it's actually an improvement compared to previous versions, which couldn't even generate Disney Pixar style really well. But here at least it's getting a bit better. Now at the start, the princess is running away from the dragon, but somehow the dragon kind of ends up in the front for some reason. So again, not very physically accurate. Hailuo's generation was the only one that was able to really nail the prompt and get everything physically correct. So now it's 7 for Hailuo and 0 for the other video models. Now Hailuo is also really good at understanding camera movements in the prompt. In fact, down here, what you can do is also click on this camera button, and here it gives you a lot of different camera controls, which you can insert throughout your prompt. So for example, if you click on right circling, it would add this meta tag to your prompt. In fact, I did a full video going over all the cool things you can do with these camera controls in Hailuo, so see this video if you're interested in learning more. But anyways, back to this, instead of just adding the meta tags within your prompts, you can also just describe the camera movements directly within your prompt. So for example, here we have the camera pushes in towards the couple kissing. The man is in a black suit, the woman is wearing a red dress. Then tilt up to show the sky and overlay text "the end." So here I'm testing out various different things. I'm seeing if it can follow the camera movement, such as pushing in and then tilting up. Plus, I'm also seeing if it can actually generate everything I specified in the prompt. The man has to wear this black suit, the woman has to wear a red dress. Plus, I'm also testing to see if it can generate text in the video. And here is what we get. Indeed, the camera first pushes in towards the couple kissing, the man is in a black suit, the woman is wearing a red dress, and then the camera is tilting up to show the sky and overlaying the text "the end." Again, this is a perfect generation. Now here's the same prompt with the other two video models. For Veo 3, the camera isn't really pushing in towards the couple kissing, and then it's also not tilting up towards the sky. So it's completely ignoring the camera movements in my prompt. And then for Kling's generation, the camera is pushing in, which is good. The couple is kissing, but at the end it's not really tilting up to show the sky, and the text is complete gibberish. So again, the winner here is Hailuo. It was the only one that was able to get the prompt completely correct. And here's the scoreboard. For all the rounds so far, Hailuo is just destroying the competition. Here's another tricky prompt that I tried. It's a really complex scene with a lot of elements. We have a man in a denim jacket sitting at a small kitchen table in a cluttered New York apartment. The table is covered in old newspapers, an empty coffee mug, and a half-eaten bagel. And indeed, we see these items on the table. A cat naps on the windowsill, that's also what we see, and then through the window you can see a bear. It also nailed that. Plus, his roommate, wearing a bathrobe and sunglasses, walks in. So again, its generation is 100% correct. It got all the elements that I specified in the prompt. Now here's the same prompt with the other two video models. For Veo 3, there is a dude in a denim jacket sitting at a small kitchen table. The table does have the items that are specified in the prompt. We do have a cat napping on the windowsill, plus you do see a bear through the window. And we do have his roommate walking in wearing a bathrobe and sunglasses. So Veo 3's generation also got it correct. And for Kling 2.1's generation, it's actually not too bad. The only thing that's missing here is the bear. So for here, I think it's a tie between Hailuo and Veo 3. Finally, Veo 3 gets 1 point. Here's another really tricky prompt that has a lot of elements. A live broadcast of a FIFA World Cup soccer match. And here is what we get. And the clarity and the physics of this are actually really good. It does look like the dude is kicking the ball around and trying to bypass the defense. I mean, there's nothing really horribly wrong with this generation. Now here's the same prompt with the other two video generators. Notice that for Veo 3, although it does look pretty good from far away, once you look closely, there's actually a lot of deformations for everyone in the scene. Like their faces are all blurry and warped, the limbs are also not really coherent, plus the signs and the logos in the background are just gibberish text. Whereas for Hailuo's generation, at least it put the word FIFA. So overall, in terms of quality and coherence, Veo's generation does seem to be worse than Hailuo. And then below we also have Kling 2.1, but everything is just physically wrong. The soccer field looks way too small, the stadium is also way too small for a FIFA World Cup match, plus the ball is missing, so there's just way too many errors with this generation. Overall, I would have to give the points again to Hailuo 02. So here's the scoreboard. Here's my final text to video test, and then we're also going to move on to image to video, which gives you even more control. So here's the prompt. We have a motorcycle racer leaning sharply into a high-speed turn. And this is what we get. This video is super sharp and coherent. Everything just looks super realistic. It's hard to point out any flaws with this. And then for your reference, here's the same prompt with the other two video generators. And it looks like all three generators could get this prompt correct. So I think in this round, it's a tie for all three. So here's the updated scoreboard. All right, let's move on to image to video. So here is where you can upload an image to use as the start frame. And this gives you ultimate control over the composition of your video. You can control what your characters look like and how they are positioned in the scene. So I'm gonna upload this image and let's do a really hard prompt. I'm gonna get the warrior to sprint toward the monster in the background and then leap towards the monster, getting ready to strike. At the same time, the monster is gonna open its mouth and breathe fire, engulfing the warrior in flames. And here is what we get. Indeed, the warrior starts running towards the monster, getting ready to strike. But at the same time, the monster breathes fire, engulfing the warrior in flames. So this, again, follows my prompt pretty well. Again, even though this is quite a high action scene, notice how coherent everything is. We no longer get any warping or deformations that we've seen with previous video models. And then for your reference, here's the same prompt with the other two video generators. For Google's Veo 3, notice that the movement is clearly lacking. Veo 3 is not really good with high action scenes compared with Hailuo and Kling. So, the overall scene is just not as cinematic as what I would like. And then for Kling 2.1, the generation is actually not bad. The warrior is sprinting really quickly towards the monster, which then opens its mouth and breathes fire. However, notice as the warrior sprints, his arms and limbs just deform really badly. So again, in terms of coherence and quality and following the prompt, I would have to give the point to Hailuo. And here's the updated scoreboard. Next, I'm gonna upload this image to use as the first frame, and let's set this to an orbit shot, so the camera is going to orbit around these dudes having an intense fight, and then they suddenly clash blades, drawing so close their faces nearly touch. And then the camera needs to zoom in to their locked gazes. And here is what we get. Indeed, we start with an orbit shot, and then they clash blades, and then their faces are super close to each other, and the camera zooms in. This is a pretty flawless generation, which again, follows my prompt really well. And notice that a sword fight is extremely hard to pull off with the other video models. I haven't really come across another model that can generate a good looking sword fight, but here, for the most part, everything looks physically correct. Now here's the same prompt with the other two video generators. As you can see, Veo 3 is just lacking in overall action. It's not able to generate high action, high movement scenes as well as Hailuo or Kling. And then for Kling's generation, I don't know why, but it decided to turn the swords into lightsabers. And it doesn't really follow my prompt very well, especially the camera movements and zooming into their faces. So again, for this round, Hailuo gets the point. Alright, next let's test if it can generate anime. So here's just a random scene. Let's get the girl to talk to the creature, and then let's have the camera slowly zoom in. And here's what we get. This is a pretty easy scene and a pretty easy prompt, so it absolutely nailed it. And then for your reference, here is the same prompt with the other two video models. And as you can see for Veo 3, again, it's really bad at following my prompt, and it doesn't even look like the girl is talking. In fact, it's really hard to make characters talk using image to video in Veo 3. And then for Kling's generation, it's not bad, but the girl isn't really talking to the creature. So again, out of these three generations, Hailuo is the clear winner. Alright, next I'm gonna upload a vertical image just to show you that Hailuo can also do videos of different aspect ratios depending on the aspect ratio of your image. So here, I'm going to see if it can pan to the right and generate another character using the same style as the initial scene. For my prompt, I'm going to write pan slowly to the right to reveal a girl wearing a white dress facing the boy. And here is what we get. Everything is perfect. The boy is walking forward. We are panning to the right to reveal a girl in a white dress, and it's in the same anime style. Now here's the prompt with the other two video models. Interestingly, for VO3, it could not generate this. And then for Kling 2.1, the camera is not panning to the right and there is no girl wearing a white dress, so it's completely wrong. So that was not too impressive. Again, the point goes to Hailuo. Alright, final test. I'm going to upload this image and let's test if it can follow all the actions that I specified in the prompt. First, we have a fast zoom up to the girl's face, showing a very scared and surprised expression. She then turns around and starts running away towards the background, trying to escape. The camera follows her as she runs down the street at night. And here is what we get. Indeed, we have a fast zoom up to the girl's face, and she does show a very scared and surprised expression, and she does turn around and runs away towards the background. It follows the prompt perfectly. And then for your reference, here is the same prompt with the other two video models. One thing to note is that VO3 cannot generate videos of other aspect ratios. So when I upload my image to VO3, it forces me to crop this into a horizontal widescreen ratio like this, which is super inconvenient. You cannot use VO to create vertical videos. But anyways, back to this. As you can see from VO's generation, it's not a fast zoom up to the girl's face. Plus, again, the action is really lacking. The movement of the scene is just way slower than what I would expect. And then for Kling's generation, this looks really good. It followed my prompt exactly. So in this case, it would have to be a tie between Hailuo and Kling 2.1. So that sums up my tests. Hopefully this gives you a sense of all the amazing things that Hailuo can do. It's noticeably better than the other leading models in terms of prompt understanding, camera control, coherence, and physics understanding. Like, it's not even close, as you can see from my personal scoreboard. But don't take my word for it. If you look at this independent leaderboard by Artificial Analysis, for image to video, Hailuo 02 beats VO3 by almost 100 ELO points, which is crazy. Now note that Hailuo 02 is behind ByteDance's video model called CDance 1.0, but this has not been released yet. So at the time of this recording, the best video model that you can use right now is Hailuo 02. Finally, let me go over the pricing of this really quickly. Like I said at the start, you do get a free trial of 500 credits. Now for a 768p video, that costs only 25 credits. If you want to generate full HD, then you do need to upgrade to a paid plan. Now the cheapest one is only $96 a year, which is only $8 a month. This is super affordable, especially considering that Google charges you $250 per month to use VO3. So anyways, definitely give this a shot. I'm pretty confident you will be very impressed by this video generator. It is definitely the best video generator you can use right now. Anyways, let me know in the comments what you think of this and if you've had a chance to play around with it. Also, let me know what other cool or interesting videos you were able to get it to generate. As always, I will be on the lookout for the top AI news and tools to share with you. So if you enjoyed this video, remember to like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for more content. Also, there's just so much happening in the world of AI every week. I can't possibly cover everything on my YouTube channel. So to really stay up to date with all that's going on in AI, be sure to subscribe to my free weekly newsletter. The link to that will be in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.